Traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton. And in today's podcast, I want to obviously discuss the biggest news that everyone is on everybody's mind, at least from a political standpoint, which is the assassination attempt on former President Trump's life. I want to give my perspective. I want to dive into the importance of asking questions, and I want to talk about life. I think these are the most important things that we have to be made aware of and whatnot. And so I think the foundation and the most important thing we should discuss is life. Why this isn't okay. Political assassinations, killing people in general, why this isn't a good thing. So, I mean, I want to start off by saying that today I'm speaking to you just not even as a politician, but just as a fellow human being, one who values the sanctity and the significance of life. Because in a world that is constantly evolving and evolving extremely quickly, where there are challenges and triumphs are very intertwined, it is crucial that we take time before diving into something like this to discuss and reflect upon the essence of life itself and the preciousness of it. Because to me, it seems like that is the most important thing in this world, is life and preserving life and saving life. And life in all of its forms is one of the most precious gifts that we all have. It's the foundation upon which our societies are built, the wellspring of our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations. Because every life, regardless of its origin, status, circumstances, pigmentation, gender, species, holds inherent value and potential. Because, I heard this explained one time and it really stuck with me, which was to the effect of, God, nature, spirit, source. It's everything. It's everyone. So we have to realize that without everything or everyone, then inherently we wouldn't have everything or everyone. So God or nature being everything means that it would not be everything without one piece of that puzzle. And that includes you. That includes everyone and everything. And I see it as our duty as stewards, as humans, as maybe one of the more, I don't like to use the word complex, but people who are very much in control of the future of this earth. I see it as our duty to honor and to value and to protect life itself. So in our daily pursuits, I know it can be very easy to become engrossed in the complexities of politics, of economics, of social issues. However, it's so important that we never lose sight of that core principle that unites us all, the unwavering respect for life. And in my opinion, this respect has to guide our actions. It has to shape our policies, and quite frankly, it has to inspire the leadership that we want leading us. So as your representative, I'm committed to fostering a society where every individual can thrive, where the vulnerable are protected. That's the right way. That's the word I'm looking for. And where opportunities are plentiful for all. And we have to invest in nature, in society in that way. And we have to strive for fairness and dignity for everyone. So in these efforts, hopefully this perspective can strengthen us, can bring us together, can let us be guided by compassion, by empathy, and a belief in the potential for every life to be good, to be powerful, to be blessed. And I think if we're able to come together, it can have a true, profound impact on everyone and everything. And I think that to kind of tie this into the current events, right? I see plethora of comments saying how much of a tragedy is that the guy missed when it relates to President Trump's assassination, former President Trump's assassination. And I think that we have to bridge that gap, whether that's a subsequent issue from leaders calling someone a Nazi repeatedly for 8 years, whether it's the individual's responsibility for trying to see people as a whole, because I also see that as being how we found ourselves in this dilemma in the first place, where we have a radicalized nature in our society. We have two sides at each other, where there is this polarity of extreme hate and extreme love for over one person. And it seems very imbalanced to me. So on top of all of this, and where maybe someone viewing the title might be a little bit more interested, is in the conspiracy theory aspect of this. And I felt like this was a good time to kind of dive into the history of that phrase, that term, because I don't know if you've checked on Twitter or on X, but there are so many questions that need to be answered. And I think this stems from a deep-seated trust in our news and media organizations. I saw on CNN, their very first headline was something to the effect of Trump falls and his Secret Service rushed him off stage. The sheer unwillingness, if you will, for the first, it seemed, several hours for anyone to even deem this a assassination attempt. And it, in a way, gives them time to attempt to form the narrative. And this is essentially where the term and why there have been, let's say, conspiracy theorists, in air quotes, have come up, because there are no valid news organizations. And in a world where we have the internet and there's tremendous amount of information all over the place, it becomes difficult to know who to trust, what to think. And so it seems to me this would be a great time to actually discuss the history and the roots and the origins of the term conspiracy theory. Now, it does have a little bit of a complex history, but the way we use it is more modernized. So the phrase conspiracy theory was first recorded in the 1870s. And early uses of this term, they were not pejorative. Instead, they described like actual conspiracies, like people working together, or theories about conspiracies without any negative connotation or positive connotation. It was just kind of like, a thing. But where it started to pick up steam was during the World Wars and the Cold Wars, where the term began to take on its more modern meaning, which was mostly and particularly during the Cold War. And it was used to describe a belief that significant political, social, or economic events were the result of secret plots by powerful groups or individuals. And if you've done any sort of deep dive into declassified documents, that certainly exists. But even more so, where it exploded, if you will, was in 1967, where the CIA reported, where they coined the term, where this is where it started getting its massive appeal. The CIA coined the term conspiracy theory in a secret memo, document 1035-960, if you want to look it up. It's document space 1035-960. And they used it to discredit critics of the Warren Commission. And if you don't know, the Warren Commission investigated the assassination of President JFK. The memo using the term was to dismiss or discredit the skeptics of what the Warren Commission had found. And guess what? There is plenty of evidence to completely discredit the Warren Commission and to suggest that the CIA was involved themselves. So that is where conspiracy theory stems from, where we use it today. So by the late 20th century, conspiracy theory, the term conspiracy theory, had largely taken on this derogatory meaning, which implied that such theories were implausible, irrational, or the result of some sort of paranoia. This was influenced by numerous high-profile conspiracy theories that were widely debunked, leading to a general skepticism about the validity of such claims. And then, of course, by the 21st century, where we are today, the term still continues to evolve. In the internet age, the conspiracy theories have proliferated due to ease of spreading information and misinformation online. The term is now often used and associated with fringe beliefs and misinformation, although sometimes it does describe genuine conspiracies. So, in my opinion, let me think here. Is it worth diving deeper into the CIA? Yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit more, because I think that's a very important baseline for where we are today. I really think that laid the seeds for the way we use the word conspiracy theory. Because I want to also point this out here, is where this... I'll save it. I'm going to save that. Because I think... give you the background and then can fill in the blanks a little. You know what? No. I'm going to say why this is a slippery slope with this term conspiracy theory. And it's because it forces people to stop asking questions, right? If you keep asking enough questions, and we're going to tie this back into the assassination attempt, is that if you keep asking enough questions and you keep finding answers that are unconventional, it brings you to a point where the entire house of cards starts to fall apart. And you do have to, of course, you have to be careful about this, because there is a level of base reality that we all need to agree upon and pay attention to. But if you have all these strings that flow out and are incongruent with the current narrative, if you will, they're valid to pursue. And what happens is you can become so wrapped up in this because it ignites this piece of you that has you thinking, oh, I know something that other people don't know. It like ignites that ego at some level. So it's definitely very powerful to make sure you keep 2 feet in the ground when pursuing conspiracy theories, but also having an open mind. Because even as I just said there, it makes you think that it's some sort of negative reality, when in actuality, it's just asking questions. It's honestly, in my opinion, at some level scientific. The issue you run into, though, is that you're kind of isolated in your own science or in your own research. So you got to have a way in order to have these like checks and balances, which isolating people makes it very difficult to have those checks and balances. And in order to illustrate this even deeper, let's jump into that 1967 memo known as document 1035-690. So background, after the assassination of President JFK in 1963, the Warren Commission was established to investigate the event. And how crazy is it that it took 4 years for them to release this memo? So the commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. However, this conclusion was met with skepticism, and numerous alternative theories began to circulate, which suggested a much larger conspiracy involved in Kennedy's death. Now, the first question I would have, right, is we are, what if it was 63? We're oh my gosh, 60 years removed from that assassination, and yet there's still classified documents, heavily classified documents. So my question would be, is that if he did truly act alone, there shouldn't be any classified documents. They should have all the evidence out there. But of course, I digress. Let's get into the memo. So the purpose of document 1035-960 was intended to address and counter the growing skepticism and alternative theories surrounding the Kennedy assassination. It aimed to provide strategies for discrediting these theories and reinforcing the official narrative provided by the Warren Commission. So this memo, here's the content of some of this memo, just high level. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what was said. Again, it's out online if you want to read it. The memo, titled Countering Criticism of the Warren Report, was distributed to CIA field offices. It outlined specific tactics for responding to conspiracy theories, including labeling the theories of speculation and encouraging the agents to dismiss conspiracy theories as mere speculation without evidence. It included appeal to authority, suggesting that agents emphasize the credibility and expertise of the Warren Commission members, which, of course, I don't know if you pay attention to our education system, but appealing to authority is very powerful in it. It's a part of the issue with our education system that needs upgrading, is that right now we're teaching all of our kids slave education, such as appealing to authority, and we need to start teaching them indigo education of empowerment. But that's a little political plug for myself. Anyhow, responding to the conspiracy theories, it also included this memo included discrediting sources. So it would advise their agents to question the motives and credibility of the theories, suggesting that they were motivated by financial or political gain. The memo also included encouraging the media rebuttals. So it recommending that agents work with media contacts to publish articles and editorials reinforcing the Warren Commission's findings and discrediting conspiracy theories. And if you know anything about Operation Paperclip, the CIA actually put in agents into these media organizations so that they could control these narratives. So the irony of this is that it seems to me, at least, just based on this report, is that there's a conspiracy theory about the conspiracy theories. Anyhow, the impact. What's the impact of this memo? So the memo itself is often cited as like a key moment in that weaponization of the term conspiracy theory. And it marked the strategic effort by the CIA to use the term to delegitimize and marginalize critics of the official narrative. I mean, think about how powerful that is. Think about how powerful it is if you can just completely silence people with a single word or phrase in this instance. What if there was a phrase that you could completely just remove someone from the picture? And over time, this strategy contributed to the term conspiracy theory acquiring a pejorative connotation, implying that such theories were inherently irrational or unfounded. And so the subsequent use is that the term conspiracy theory as a tool for discrediting, dissenting, destroying opinions has continued to evolve. It's become some sort of common tactic in these political and social discourses, often used to dismiss alternative viewpoints or undermine alternative viewpoints without engaging. And this is the most important part of this. This, in my opinion, is the most important part, is that they do it without engaging the substance of the arguments, without actually addressing the questions or concerns. And I think that's the biggest issue, is that you don't even address the substance of the argument or the questions themselves. You don't have answers for the questions. And this is exactly how it relates back to former President Donald J. Trump's assassination attempt, because there are a lot of questions. And to me, I think 4 of the most important questions, maybe not popular. They might not be that popular. Maybe they are. I don't know. But my 4 most important questions that just kind of leave me spiraling for questions and looking for questions to get answers. And again, I hope they don't come across with implication of what the answer is. But if asking these questions brings up about a potential answer, you got to ask yourself, well, what evidence would be needed for something like that to be valid? So the very first one is, how could numerous spectators see and film this guy on the roof being like, hey, this is sketchy, minutes before the shooting? How did a Secret Service, because like, I'm just putting these out there, okay? So the second question, and these are just questions I have. Like, how could they see the shooter, but Secret Service apparently didn't see him or take action? I guess that would be like the follow-up to that question, the finishing touches to that question. Second question I have, how did a Secret Service agent seemingly have the man in his crosshairs for several minutes and do nothing? Because you can see there's one video, and then once the guy took the shot, there was return fire, and he was killed pretty much instantly. The next thing so this is question number 3 I have. So with today's technology, with the improvement of rifles, 150-yard shot is relatively easy, especially if you go to the range and train just a little bit, especially with the caliber of weapons. I know if you can hit a pretty small target from about 150 yards away if you have the right weaponry. So my question is how did he miss? Is it possible that he was just that bad of a shot? Maybe this question's a little bit more disingenuous. To me, it seems a little wild. I don't know. Maybe that's not the best question to ask, but there are these other important questions to answer. And I think the last one, let me put it this way. I'm not going to ask this question, but I think it's important to look at events, how they play out in the grand scheme of things. If you take a step back and look at the way things play out, I think it's very important to understanding this. And we just talked about how media organizations are in cahoots, if you will. At least we think they are. At least everything they do implies that they are. But I find it very fascinating that there's a piece of me that thinks that it's not fair to say that, so I'm just not going to say it. Yeah, I don't think that's fair. But what I do think is fair is questioning the narratives, questioning the simple things that come out, asking questions, saying, does that make sense? Because you have inside you intuition. There's a piece of you right in the middle of your heart that is very powerful with intuition. And from the poisoning of our food, the poisoning of our air, the poisoning of our water, they have dulled that intuition within people. Yet I can see, without a doubt in my mind, that it is starting to open up in more people. Heck, I know it's opening up more within myself. So I just say all of this to allow that piece of inspiration, that piece of intuition, to open up a little bit wider. And I know maybe you guys don't have a podcast. Maybe you don't want to you're not a public figure. You don't put your ideas out there. But just ask questions. Keep asking questions. Because at the very least, it'll make your life very fascinating very quickly. Keep your feet planted in the ground in reality. But continue to ask questions if things don't make sense. Be okay not knowing. Be okay to learn. Because if there's anything that I've learned, it's that asking questions is very empowering. Taking a place of not knowing and wanting to learn is very empowering. And heck, you learn a lot through it. And if there's anything else I've learned, is that I will see all of you in the sixth dimension.